And what's happening is our group, our healing collective, are opening their meridians, but big kind of collective meridians. We could say meridians that run through the web of life are opening from our healing collective out into the field of our ancestral archive and making space for everyone's stories. And I feel as if one of the things that's happening within each person who's here tonight is a positioning, a slight repositioning for each one of us into a place where we can receive and honor and appreciate the stories of the ancestors. Somehow I feel that this slight repositioning up until our healing webinar tonight, maybe some of us haven't been paying much attention to the stories of the ancestors. I mean, we all know there are a few family stories that get passed from generation to generation, and mostly we know those stories, right? But I know some people don't have any stories from generation to generation. But there are a lot of stories, and each story is a miniature version of the self-communication of divinity, right? Divine is talking to itself all the time, and it's talking to itself through us, and every experience we have is an expression of divinity talking to itself. There are a lot of stories, and it's like the stories seem to need to be recognized and appreciated and honored, something like that. And so I'm seeing each one of us, there's a little shift in the heart area that's reorienting itself to receive and honor and appreciate the stories of the individual experiences of the ancestors. That's very sweet. It's very sweet. And you'll see that right now, what happens is those stories can come in as like a kind of gentle impulses of feelings and stuff. All we have to do is make that slight adjustment to recognizing that the stories would like to be honored and recognized. They'd like to be heard. And then make that little reorientation here in the heart area where we process experience to be kind of like open and receptive to the stories. And this is a small shift that we do, which is easy and nice for us because it's lovely to find out more about your ancestors. And it is extremely supportive of them. It makes them happy. It makes them feel recognized and loved, and it's really important. So that little shift in the heart, now we're going back, and what I'm seeing is that there's a large region. Oh yes, okay. So there's a large region where the stories are kind of held like a library, sort of like a library. And this region is an energetic region because the DNA holds all the information in seed form, but it doesn't hold all the details of all the stories. But there is a region in the field of our consciousness where all the names and dates and details of all the ancestors reside. And so I'm just taking a little dive into that area to see what we can see what kind of patterns and shapes come out. Okay. Lots of information coming in. Okay. So, so the first thing that's happening is that there's a clearing in the astral body itself. So we know that the astral body has a sort of torus shape, shaped a bit like a torus, but there's a part of our bodies that connects with it. Even within the torus, there are areas where like they're more prominent meridians than others. So it's not just like it's not like a ball made of rubber or something that's just kind of homogeneous. The astral body has this landscape, inner landscape. And there are these two like major meridians that kind of run out the back in a sort of a wing shape. There's like a form in the back of our physiologies in the astral body that is akin to the sort of shape of wings. And it's very possible that that form in the astral body has over the centuries been responsible for the myth of angels having wings, or from the vision, you know, sometimes people have visions, oh, they see the coming out the back or whatever. So what I'm seeing is that those areas, which are they're kind of like, I'm using my arm too, kind of like sculpted forms like that, coming out the back, they're opening, and they start, their origin starts right down in the pelvis, right down in the area, almost to where um, the leg bones meet the hip joint. That's very interesting. It goes right up the back and goes shoop like that. And it's very interesting. So that makes sense to me in that we think of all the bones in the body, the bones in our body most associated with ancestors, I think of the pelvis bone. And the reason I think of the reason that pelvis bone holds this position of supporting the ancestral energies in the body is because the pelvis bone is the foundation for the legs, which allow us to move forward, right? So that's the part that's like set in us, and then from there we move forward. But it's also the support for the entire torso and the rest of the upper body. So it ends up being kind of like it, as far as the skeletal system is concerned, it ends up being in a position of supporting both the upper part of the body and the lower part of the body, just as the ancestors are the support, not only for everything that we do going into the future, but all that we are, all that we've inherited from them. You know, our skin color and our face and our hair and all of the shapes of the designs on the pads of our fingers and all that stuff comes essentially from the DNA. Okay. I move my hand and I change the color, sorry. As I might mention to the few people who just arrived, we're still working with the lighting here. All right, it'll go back to normal. It's a little better. All right, so from the pelvis area, right up through the back, these channels of energy are opening. They're opening. And they go out, and the energy that moves through them is responsible for the turning effect on the torus of the astral body. I didn't know that before. Very cool, guys, very cool. I give you all the credit. Everybody out here gets the credit for the insights. So there is energy moving through there, and it seems that the increase in sattva, because now that we've laid out the spectrum, everybody's like, oh, I want to hop onto that sattva train, right? I want to be like more in the sattvic side. All the ancestors are thinking their way through to that. There seems to be a big kind of churning because these two forms go in different directions. So they kind of, like a washing machine, sort of, they kind of go back and forth with each other. The energy frequencies are running in a back and forth motion, creating a kind of a churning effect in the astral body. And it seems that this churning effect is supporting an increase, or at least, yes, a shift on that spectrum from sattva to tamas. It's supporting a shift. It's supporting the ability for the energy of the being to shift. This is mostly for the ancestors, because they're looking at it, and they're all kinds of bits and pieces are coming in to me from them, saying things like, oh yes, you know, there's a tradition of it, when a person passes away, then they have to, an angel has to earn their wings, right? That they have a year, in older traditions, they have a year to, you know, to do good works on earth before the soul completely passes out of the earth plane and goes to other places. Earning their wings. We're looking at the transition points, or it's a spectrum. This is a spectrum. So there are downloads coming in for the ancestors regarding most effective ways of engaging these energies, one of the first things that's coming up is the need to not try to push against negativity, not try to destroy it or eliminate it or harshly try to fight it. No, because a lot of those negative energies, they just get bigger if you do that. Yeah, fighting against the negativity is not the way to handle it, because that actually, what you resist persists. But to harness the sattva which is in it, to established in your own pure potential, to isolate the pure potential in whatever it is you're dealing with. Oh, I'm glad we're telling this to the ancestors. This is so good. Whatever it is you're dealing with, you isolate out that pure potential, that pure being, that divine being in that horrible situation, whatever it is, the atrocities in China, whatever it is, you isolate it out. And then the energy within that can be utilized. And if you want to have an example of how we do that, anybody who missed last webinar, you can get the recordings, and recordings go up free online after a few months, and watch that, how we worked with that coronavirus to shift that energy around, using the energy that's already there, already present, to turn it towards the evolutionary process. Turn it towards evolution. So we need to, the ancestors are saying we need definitions, we need a solid definition for what does that mean, evolution, what does that mean, and where actually are we going? Divine embodiment, right? Divinity, the source of creation, quality less, made manifest. That's where we're going. Simple. But they're getting it as a download that's elaborated as it goes in, because everybody needs different levels of elaboration, which is fine. And as we all know, when these downloads, and we have this download, we know this, we all know this, all you guys know this. So what we're doing is we are providing the download for the ancestors through our own DNA, knowing that the direction we are headed is to divine embodiment. Then that knowing is lovingly, reverently offered to the ancestors. They receive it as a download, which means it comes in through the cord of light, and it goes in, and as it goes in, it starts to integrate and stabilize and make transformations. Sometimes it's purifying. Different things happen, but that's okay. It's all good, and it's gentle. It's gentle. It's done lovingly and reverently. So it's done in a way which supports the comfort of the ancestors as it's going along.